Sandra. Welcome to another episode of Asexualise, my asexual life. This is a place to be for education about asexuality, all things asexual. I share my asexual life journey in order to help you in yours. If you haven't already subscribed, hit that great big subscribe button right here, right now. Please hit that bell icon so you get notified of every time I go live like now or post a new video. We've got tonight, which is all about heterosexual and heteronormative attitudes towards sex versus asexual attitudes. And we're going to be discussing this in a moment. I do know there's a lot of people who are new to my channel. So if you are new, I'm Sandra Bellamy. I'm the author of this awesome Asexual Perspective book, which is out on Amazon. Talks about love, life and sex from an asexual point of view. So grab your copy now. So yeah, you might have known that when I spoke before, I said that I was, I had gone in a dating group for, predominantly it's Indians in there, not all of them are Indians, but it's for single Indians, separated and divorced. And I joined it a while ago, about a week ago probably. And yeah, I've had a lot of Indian guys in my inbox. Some have been really okay experiences, pleasant experiences, and others have been really bad experiences. And you might remember me telling you yesterday that I was having a date with a guy yesterday, or the last video I did. And so this was with an Indian guy, and the date overall went well. It ended up being in 2 parts. And yeah, but at the end of the day, I told him to go and think about stuff, because like, I'm asexual and I don't want sex, I don't want marriage, I don't want kids. I prefer to live separately. And I asked him if he wanted children, and he might have done. And he was willing to think about adoption, but you know, I'm not into having kids. It's not really my thing. And he was asking about living with me, and I can't have anyone living with me anyway here. And I like living on my own. My landlord won't allow me to have another person here. It's single occupancy only anyway. And so yeah, it was just like, I told him to go away and think about the type of relationship he wants, because what I want and what he wants might be very different. And anyway, I was more concerned about the kids stuff, but he came back and said that he thinks sex is incomplete. He thinks love is incomplete without sex. So yeah, that's what he said. I think love is incomplete without sex. So that's a really kind of stereotypical heterosexual, heteronormative attitude towards sex. Unfortunately, the majority of the population of the world is still heterosexual, and they tend to not be able to separate love from sex. I told him that, you know, you can have love without sex. You know, you don't have to have sex to complete it, because they're 2 separate things. You know, but obviously the way he feels is still valid just as much as I have my feelings. Just because he's heterosexual doesn't mean to say he hasn't got valid feelings, because he does, you know. He can't help the way he feels, just like I can't help the way I feel. And so clearly we're not suitable for a relationship. And I am a little bit sad about that, but I'm really glad I found out sooner rather than later, because I told him that we need to discuss these type of things early on so we don't get too attached to each other. You know, because if he does want different stuff to me, he can't live without sex forever, then there's no point in, you know, do you know what I mean? It becomes too upsetting. And I am a bit sad, to be honest. Ever since we can't be in a relationship, I am a little bit sad. I can feel it welling up in my eyes, which is really hard, because I did like him. I did get on really well with him. He seems overall a really nice person. I got to meet his mum on camera, which was really nice. His gran I saw, and part of his home. And so I really loved that, and I thought it was really nice, you know. And I'm a bit sad, but I'm glad that I found this out now, because this is why I don't usually date heterosexual guys, because in the end they nearly all need sex. And you've got to watch out for the fact that some of them, well, quite a lot of Indian guys, for example, are virgins, and they haven't got, you know, they're not married, they don't have kids at a certain, you know, like a young guys, early to mid-20s, who's the age group that I actually like usually. But it's not because they want to be like that forever. It's just temporary, and whilst they do their career and stuff. So whilst I'm asexual and don't want any of those things, mine is very much permanent. The way they think is like temporary. They don't realise that when I'm posting about asexuality, I don't want sex, marriage, or kids. This is how I am forever. I'm not going to change on that. You know what I mean? And so it's a very, very different mindset, very, very different feeling. And I thought he might be a little bit different, this guy, in the sense of like more, he seems really accepting about my asexuality. And he was really nice about, didn't really question it or put me down about or anything like that. He was really nice. He just listened to what I had to say, hadn't heard anything about it before, so I educated him. And so overall the experience like that was really, really good. And he seems like a really nice guy. He's 21 but can clearly make adult decisions for himself. And I was glad that he was honest with me, and that he took the time to consider a relationship with me seriously enough to think about deep matters of the future. So that was a good experience in part, but also partly upsetting, because this guy did look a little bit like the guy in my vision. So yeah, so that was a bit difficult. I'm not gonna lie, I'm still a bit sad over it. Like even though I've been trying not to get attached, I'm a little bit to this guy, a little bit, just a little bit. But yeah, I'm more sad than anything. But I'm glad in a way because at least I know he's not my soulmate for definite, and my soulmate is still out there somewhere in the world. So it was difficult, but like it is quite typical of heterosexuals to not be able to separate love from sex, and it's an ongoing kind of issue that I have no qualms about sexuals liking sex. If they're sexual, like in terms of like generality, they're gonna like sex because they're heterosexual, they experience sexual attraction. But when they try to say, like, as a blanket statement, things that imply or say that they can't, that love and sex have to go together, that's where I kind of like just think of all the societal conditioning that's gone over the years and how it's pretty poor if they're kind of like doing it as a blanket statement, like everyone's like it, everyone thinks like this. And it's kind of like, sex is natural for people, everyone wants sex, and I'm like, well, I don't, and there's other asexuals that don't. And so that was a bit disappointing that he couldn't see about love without sex. He couldn't really see that totally. But he's really a nice person. I didn't get any bad vibes from him. I thought he's very attentive and listening well to me. So I like that. But it's sad that the majority population needs sex the majority of the time and they kind of can't live without it. And so when he said about, like he feels love that is incomplete without sex. For me as a asexual person, I'm just thinking that love is completely different to sex. Like I understand that sexuals might like sex, and if they say, well, if I love someone, I want to be physically like intertwined with them and I want to have sex with them because I enjoy it, is very different to actually saying, well, love is incomplete without sex, because there are lots of people in the world besides asexuals that can't or don't have sex. I mean, some asexuals do have sex, obviously, but there's people that are actually disabled who can't physically have sex. And if you take like someone who's handicapped, for example, and or got a disability, and they can't physically have sex, to say that love is incomplete without sex just kind of makes it invalidate all those people too. Like, that they're not going to get love without the sex, they're not going to get total love, they're not going to have that experience, whereas I completely disagree with that. Of course they're going to be able to have love without sex. Sex doesn't complete love because love isn't isn't empty in the first place. There's it's love is love, isn't it? It's eternal. It's in your heart and it's in your soul. I understand that sexuals want that as an activity to do with someone they love because they enjoy that. But, to kind of think love is incomplete without sex is very upsetting, I think, and sad that he thinks that way. But I do respect that that's the way he feels and thinks, and he can't help the way he feels and thinks because he's not the same as me. So I like you, but I'm not like you, because he's not asexual. So at the end of the day, we're just two different people with two different sexualities. I think he's still a really lovely guy. I did get on really well with him, which made it harder to know we're not suitable. But like from an asexual point of view, as well, I told him about I don't want sex, marriage, or kids, or to live together, and he's like, "Oh, you've got a lot of conditions for love," and I'm thinking, well, actually, from my point of view, I've got less conditions because, like, to me, love and marriage is like, oh, will you love me, you'll marry me, is like a condition. Like it's like an extra. Oh, you love me, you'll have kids with me. It's like an extra. It's like not just a person. It's like extra. It's like a add-on sale, if you like. And then obviously, like living together, that's extra. Sex is extra. It's like all these things are added on to the person in order for that person to love and want to be with them in a relationship. So I actually find that I'm more unconditional love because I can love someone without living with me, without sex, marriage, or kids, without those external factors, if you like. And I don't need any of them to love someone. Whereas most other people, they want the person plus the extra as well. So it's like conditional. It's like, I'll have you, but only if I can have these things as well. And so to me, that's conditional love, not unconditional. Yet when I go in these dating groups, the heterosexual dating groups, they see me as having lots of conditions and it being like conditional love. And I'm thinking, well, not really, because for one, they're standards rather than conditions. And for two, like I said, I just want the person. I don't need all the add-ons to go with it. But it's very heteronormative thinking that everyone likes sex and it's natural for everyone. And to even think that, love is incomplete without sex, it makes me feel sad that someone believes that and thinks that, because like I said, people who have got disabilities, some of them can't have sex. Doesn't mean to say they can't be fully loved just because they can't have sex, because they can be fully loved, and so I would, from an asexual point of view, I would highly disagree that, love needs sex to complete. It doesn't. Love is eternal. It's in and of its own right. It doesn't need sex. Love isn't sex, And so I think we have to remember this. I just find it really difficult being amongst heterosexual guys again, because clearly they all want sex. They can't live without sex. And it's like, feels like bashing your head against a brick wall, I think, when you're a asexual person who's sex repulsed and you're trying to find someone suitable for a relationship. It just becomes a nightmare because the way they think and the ideology is completely opposite most of the time to where a lot of asexuals think and the ideology that they have. And so it just becomes a mess of incompatibility, can have some upset emotions, can have some pain, and it's just not good, And again, I came across another guy, like he video chatted with me for less than 2 minutes, and he really wanted another proper video date with me because he was working at the time. But I said that I don't want sex, marriage, or kids. He goes, and I want a guy who's single. He's like, oh, I am single, child free, not married. I said, yeah, but that's that's temporary. That's basically for now. But you're going to want these things in the future. You know what I mean? And I don't think he'd really be thinking about that long term. And I said, you're going to want these things in the future. I was like, I don't ever want them. So they just see that as a temporary thing with me. They don't see it as the big picture. But I'm never going to change my mind on kids, especially. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I find it really difficult. It is hard work trying to find the right needle in the haystack trying to find a decent heterosexual guy who can live without sex, which most of them cannot, or to find someone who can love me without sex. But at the end of the day, I just think it's his loss, you know. Some other guy will have me by his side in the future. And yeah, but I did wish him well as well. I want him to find a really nice heterosexual girl for him who loves loads of sex, because clearly that will probably suit him, or so he thinks at this point in his life. I think some people do have experiences later in life and they realise, oh, sex is not all it's cracked up to be. And love is so much better and more important. But I guess other people think, you know, like, I just can't get enough sex. I just want it and want it more and more and more. So, you know, there's no predicting it really. But to think that everyone wants sex and it's natural for everyone just really rubs my back up the wrong way, you know, because it's really not the case. And I wish more people would recognise that. And then maybe we can stop feeling like we're invalid or we don't matter or we don't belong, or try and push ourselves to do things we don't really want to do, you know, which is never a good idea. So anyway, I hope you found this video useful, helpful, insightful. If you haven't anyway, please pop an emoji down below. I'd love to know what you think. Please pop a comment down below too. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you like it. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And hit that bell icon so you get notified every time I go live like now. I'll post a new video. Lots of love. Bye. Bye.